Hey everyone, it's time for another point of view, the greatest audio show in the universe. That's a total hidden gem. As always, I'm Mr. Gerald Lord. I appreciate you giving me a listen, and I've got quite a couple things I want to talk about. So let's get started by discussing why nature hates us. Crocodiles. And before anyone says anything, yeah, I've probably covered them on a segment before, but there's a reason I'm bringing this up. You see, if anyone's going to talk about dangerous types of animals, crocodiles have got to be in their top 10. Just think about this for a second. Of all the reptiles alive today, crocodiles are widely believed to have changed the least compared to their prehistoric counterparts from over 65 million years ago, which is basically nature's way of saying it's already damn near the perfect apex predator, just a few tweaks here or there, and we're all set. Now, to be fair, only 6 of the 23 crocodilian species currently known to exist are considered a severe danger to adult humans. But you're in worser shape if you're a small child, because then you're potentially around the same size as the animals most crocodile species generally eat, even the ones that pose no severe threat to adult humans. For the sake of structure to this segment, though, I'll start with the 2 most notorious crocodiles in regards to being a threat to humans. The first of which is the saltwater crocodile, also known as the largest of all living reptiles. Their informal nickname is actually Salty, which I find pretty humorous. But that's pretty much the only funny thing about them. They're found in parts of India, most of Southeast Asia, and parts of Australia. They can reach up to 7 meters, or 23 feet, in length, and they are hypercarnivorous and aggressive. There's actually some footage of these big bastards attacking sharks. I'm not making this up. Links in the description. It's difficult to get an accurate estimation of how many of these salties kill humans annually, because a lot of the areas they inhabit don't do a lot of reporting on it. The conservative estimate is 20 to 30 attacks per year, but don't be surprised if it's much higher. Saltwater crocodiles are also, fun fact, the species attributed to the single most deadly crocodile attack on humans in history, when on February 19th of 1945, during the Battle of Ramree Island, 900 Japanese soldiers crossed through 10 miles of swamps in Burma, or Myanmar, whatever you want to call it. We've been over this. The British, basically, were fighting the Japanese, and they had the swampland encircled. The 900 Japanese soldiers were left to spend the night in the swamps, and of the 900 Japanese soldiers, almost 500 escaped, 20 were captured, and the rest are believed to have been eaten by crocodiles in the swamps. If you don't live in Southeast Asia or Australia, though, you're safe from salties. But you might not be from this next one. The second most notorious crocodile for being a threat to humans is the Nile crocodile, which is found in the continent of Africa, predominantly sub-Saharan Africa. Much like saltwater crocodiles, it's difficult to get an accurate estimate of how many attacks they do per year, but because of their proximity with humans, they are estimated to be responsible from anywhere from 275 to 745 attacks on humans, 63% of which are fatal. That's actually a higher fatality rate than salties, which have a fatality rate of 50%. Nile crocodiles are the crocodile species that kills the most humans on a year-per-year basis. A less notorious, but also deadly species of crocodile is the black caiman, which is a crocodile found in South America. You'll generally find these in the Amazon River basin or swamp-like areas in the Amazon forest, and they're believed to be responsible for about a dozen or so attacks on humans per year. In North America, you've got the American crocodile, which is considered less aggressive than the others on this list, and it has even fewer attacks attributed to it per year, and only a few unverified cases of fatal attacks on humans have been reported. So then, why am I talking about crocodiles all of a sudden, you might be asking? And more importantly, which one of these notorious bastards is the one the story is all about? Well, shocker, none of them. The crocodile species related to this recent event is actually the New Guinea crocodile. So get this. West Papua New Guinea, an individual was given a license to have a sanctuary for New Guinea crocodiles, and even some saltwater crocodiles were probably living there too. So let me just say, that's already kind of strange, because this sanctuary was built to preserve them and breed them, but both the New Guinea crocodile and the saltwater crocodile are listed by the International Union of Conservation of Nature, also known as the IUCN, as their conservation status being least concern. In case you don't know, that's actually the least rating you can give an animal. Look, I think the only one that probably means like your species is even better is like pest or something, where you're pretty much, there's so many of you, you're actually a pest. But whatever, sanctuary was built for these crocodiles. I guess the government of New Guinea thought they were necessary to preserve. But a little over 2 weeks ago, on July 13th of this year, a local man decided to venture into the sanctuary to gather vegetables, and he was killed by one of the crocodiles. Funeral was held for him for the next day, and afterwards, several hundred angry locals stormed the sanctuary with knives and shovels and other blunt weapons, and they killed 292 crocodiles in the sanctuary in revenge. All of the crocodile carcasses were piled up and burned by officials later. So yeah, probably one of the bigger swerves in the history of this segment. I was shocked too when I read the story. What are my thoughts on all of it? Well, killing those crocodiles, if we're being honest here, it didn't achieve anything towards bringing that guy back to life. And the crocodiles that are still around probably aren't going to learn anything from this, because, you know, they're wild animals. But I still find it interesting and somewhat impressive, in an admittedly twisted way, when humans collectively band together to combat an apex predator. Now, don't get me wrong. Was it a primal, emotional response on the part of the angry villagers? Yes. Was it messed up that hundreds of random crocodiles were slaughtered because of the death of one man's reckless decision? And yes, it was a reckless decision. Who, in their right mind, goes into a crocodile preserve to pick vegetables? You're asking to get attacked or eaten. Definitely a reckless decision, and it was definitely messed up that hundreds of crocodiles were killed because of that. But I'm not shedding a tear for those crocodiles, because honestly, if roles were reversed, I doubt they would be shedding any for us. If they were shedding them, they'd be crocodile tears. No pun intended. Nah, I'm kidding. That pun was totally intended. But I can say that with damn near certainty, listeners, because nature hates us. Next topic. Let's talk internet. It feels wrong using this segment to discuss personal stuff. I've been doing that a lot. But there's a part of me that feels the need to talk about this. Feel free to skip this part if you feel the need to. I totally understand if it's not what you tuned in for, but what can I say? So many swerves and unexpected twists with the love of my life recently. About a week after I did the last show in June, I saw her in person on 2 separate occasions, which is always a plus, because she's a beautiful individual whose company I greatly enjoy. Naturally, this also meant being around everyone's favorite elusive special guest of the show, the sorcerer. You can imagine how thrilling I found that. But you know how it is. Take the good with the bad when I have to. Once again, me and him managed to keep it civil, and I thought me and her were getting along just fine. And all things considered, it was turning out to be a pretty great weekend to cap off June for me. But apparently, it had to end with me discovering from her that supposedly some mutual acquaintance of ours was making me out to be some kind of conspiring douche. And old accusations against me arose again, and I immediately suspected the sorcerer to be behind these apparent character attacks against me. Because, kind of seemed like his general modus operandi. But listeners, as will always be the case, I weathered the storm, and the truth prevailed. After enough time and some attempts on my part to get to the bottom of the rumors, she found out her source of information was getting their facts wrong, and my reputation was cleared. But inexplicably, despite this, after that weekend, for almost 2 weeks, I was treated with a very noticeable amount of derision and sometimes blatant hostility from her in a group setting. That, of course, definitely reeked of his influence over her, being the primary cause of it, I'd say. A point which I made sure to bring up to her once I found it had gone too far on her part. I want to believe that it was mostly just her putting on airs for him. Who knows? But by the point I brought it up, after another instance when I thought she had taken her derision a bit too far, I was pretty much starting to believe the person I cared about was pretty much just becoming an extension of him. And that's heartbreaking. There's really no good way to describe what it feels like to see the person you love so much become someone you don't recognize anymore. And no, I'm not talking physically. She's still a wonderful, gorgeous individual, same as I've always thought her to be since the first day we met. That really hasn't changed. She still has a voice that is just the right amount of annoying mixed with just the right amount of adorable. None of that had changed. But still, she was being a different person towards me. And not in a good way. And for a good week, I was starting to think this was it. The Stockholm Syndrome has finally kicked in fully on her. She's never going to realize it, and she'll always be seeking to be truly valued by a person who will never fully give her that. And he'll be content to settle for her until something better comes along. And I'll just be a miserable, lonely sap, still holding on to a delusional optimism that truth and some semblance of sense will prevail in her, or perhaps some sudden twinge of honesty will spring forth from him about what he really wants and values in life. Eventually, the negativity got the better of me, and I found myself last Friday morning, on the 13th of July, feeling under the weather, pretty much not wanting to get out of bed, because what's the point? Eventually you get tired of having no one to hold close to you as you drift off to sleep every night. Eventually you stop seeing the reason for getting out of bed to make a living. You've got no one to really share that living with. Eventually, you start to realize life's rather hollow when you don't have someone to love who can love you back. So, feeling exhausted and nauseated, I returned to my slumber, wanting to think the sleep would help, but knowing it really wouldn't. couple hours passed, and then I heard it. She was calling me. The ringtone I thought I'd never hear again was sounding loud and clear. I don't know why it was on that day, of all days, but I tell you, listeners, small moments like that, which really restore my faith in the world. Of all days, she called, and of all subjects to discuss, it was a proposition to run away for the weekend, me and her. Take a trip, get away from it all, get away from him, see the world, even if it was just for a few days. And there I was, in my bed. And even though 5 minutes prior I felt so feeble, and even though I had matters and obligations to attend to that weekend, I said yes, fuck it, let's go, no time like the present. And as I said it, I meant it. I could tell this was important to her, this person I cared so damn much about. I could tell she needed this. I don't know what happened. I knew something had to have happened to merit this request from her, but that was irrelevant when I made that decision. She didn't need to tell me. I just knew she needed to go away from it all. So I said, yes, screw it. Everyone else will understand. And so she said, all right, let's go. We'll leave in 2 hours. I got off the phone, and believe me when I tell you, it was like I had been healed by a miracle worker. My energy was returning back to me. My ailments were dissipating. I got packed, I got ready, I waited. But she never came. She didn't follow through. No doubt he got to her, made her some promises that sounded nice, talked her out of it, and she told me, quite simply, change of plans. And that was it. It sucked, took the wind out of my sails, and that was that. And that's a terrible ending to a story. But that's life. Sometimes the other guy wins. And sometimes when you love someone and it hurts, well, all you can really do is just wait by the moon and bleed if it's what she says you ought to do. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. And I wish that story had a happier conclusion, but unfortunately not. I think I'm going to wrap this one up now. Here's the Gaslight Anthem, and here's Looking at You Kid. See you next time.
But boys will be boys, and girls have those eyes that'll cut you to ribbons sometimes. And all you can do is just wait by the moon and bleed if it's what she said.